social that we were allowed to bring back. I am happy as anything that we're allowed to bring it back. Now, just a reminder, you do need to look at your calendars because each month we are going to do a theme, okay? And today, Picnic Depot, Jeanette was nice enough to do your little tea stuff and your little crumpets and cookies and all that. So we're, yes, and so all of you will have a sugar high that you can do a couple laps around the track before you get back on the bus or go back home, okay? We are always going to probably have a speaker if I can get a good speaker. And just a reminder, we are not bringing in anyone about houses or insurance or anything else. The only thing we probably will try to bring back is I might try to get somebody from the police department to talk about all these scams that are going on.
That's good. That's appreciated.
Because there's so many that you have to watch out for, and I want everyone to just be safe and protected by what's going on, because even now there's so many that right now you're actually saying hello and they want you to say your name and stuff. You just you can't, okay? So I am trying to get that in, but we are going to keep it outdoors for this summer. We feel like we're going to try to keep it outdoors and stuff and then see how it goes. And as you see, we set it up, you know, Steve and Joe and myself set it up that you have some in the shade or you have some outside. So we'll do it that way, okay? But just a reminder, if you can remember, please sign up, because that is my way of deciding how many I need to tell Jeanette or whoever is catering it, how many items we need for everybody. And if you can, please, I have my badge and that is my sweatshirt. But if you please start wearing your badge, because sometimes it's easier just to look and say, hey, if Joe doesn't know who you are and he's checking you in, it's easier if you have your badge or whatever. But a lot of times we'll just say, okay. Does anyone have any questions before I introduce our speaker? And then he has some exciting stuff to tell you, and then we're nobody ate the dirt, right? Because we're going to be planting. We're going to be planting. So
We're going to plant the money tree.
yes, plant the money tree. Please plant the money tree and then come see me. Okay. So so those of you know, Jeanette, Picnic Depot put on this, put on the treats and everything else, and Steve, the assistant director, is the one that I report to, that we put on all the events and stuff for the seniors.
Gardening committee of about 12 people have made the decisions that have gotten to the garden as to where it is today. This is our third growing season. The first year was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. Second year got a lot better. The third year we're expecting to learn a lot from some of the mistakes that we made. We are selling plots over there if you're interested. It's $40. We do call them beds, but people call them plots, so I guess we'll probably have some gardeners sprinkling their ashes in a plot. And for $40, it's probably a pretty good bargain. There's 168 beds in the garden, and we're totally sold out, and we have a waiting list of about 40 people waiting to get in. So if you're interested at the end of this session, I'm happy to take you over to the garden, open up the gate, and have you do a little quick tour if anyone's interested. So we can do that later on. Just give me an idea. How many of you are home gardeners? Okay, a few. Vegetables, flowers, both? Both,
Vegetable.
right? Okay. Preference? Are you like in patio pots? Do you have an actual garden bed that you help feed the deer, the woodchucks, and everybody else that comes through? Yeah. Okay. Before I get started, in addition to being a gardener, I am also an artist, and I thought I would do a quick quiz. So those of you who get it right will be able to get back on the bus. Those of you that don't, well, you'll be walking home in your strollers. But I'm hoping you can recognize these flowers as I show them. irises, right? Blue and yellow irises. A lot of these flowers I grow in my backyard, so I have a lot of inspiration when I walk out my backyard. No, not geranium, not zinnia. Nope.
Daisy. No, it's
All right, looks like people are going to be walking home. It's a Gerber daisy. Somebody said daisy, but you didn't say Gerber. You did? All right. What is this? Peonies. These are nice to grow. They don't last very long though, you know, they kind of flop over when you get that heavy rain. You got to kind of support them. And I remember I had someone coming to my house and they looked at the peonies and they were covered with ants. He said, "Oh, you got to kill those ants." I go, no. It's somewhat of a symbiotic relationship between the ants and the peonies. You don't kill the ants, they help with the pollination of the peony plant. So that's something you want to do. When you talk about Spam, that was from St. Pierre, Missouri. I don't know anybody in Missouri. Do we have anyone here who's a master gardener? Okay. I think we did something together in Chester a couple of years ago, maybe. Yeah. So every county offers a master gardener program. It's about, I don't know, 36 weeks. And it's run, you know where the 9/11 Memorial is on Hanover Avenue?
Oh, yes.
Across the street there's the Rutgers Cooperative Extension. And they've been running classes out of there. And it's very reasonable. It's like $300 for the class. You get a manual about that thick. And you become, I'll say, a jack of all trades and maybe a master of none. There's so much information that gets thrown at you. We bring in a lot of the professors from Rutgers. I remember we had someone come in and talk about dirt for 3 hours. You know, I'm glad she knows her stuff about dirt, but I wasn't that interested, but I sat through it. So it goes from dirt to flowers to pests to integrated pest management, organic pesticides. So it was very beneficial. The garden that we run over here is totally organic. So you can't use Miracle Grow, you can't use Roundup. Although last year we had someone use Roundup and swore it wasn't Roundup, but it wiped out everything. So it's totally organic, which makes it a challenge. And then you begin to appreciate these farmers that run organic farms. I mean, a lot of the organic pesticides, I'll talk about a couple of them, just aren't that effective against some of these bugs. I don't know how they do it, but I give them a lot of credit for growing things organically, because it is a challenge. And a lot of people say, "Why is it organic?" We said, well, that's the way we set the garden up. We didn't want to add any more chemicals into the soil than are already there, so everything has to be organic. If you're going to use a fertilizer organically, you know, cow manure, chicken manure, lobster is usually good stuff to use. The stuff I would say to avoid is horse manure. The problem with horses is horses eat a lot of hay with a lot of seeds. So if that horse manure is not treated and heated, those seeds then germinate when you put them in your garden beds at the same time. If you get indeterminate, those are the ones that can go 8-10 feet tall. And a lot of them are like the cherry tomatoes, the plum tomatoes, the nice little ones. So I made the mistake one year, this was going back maybe 8 years ago before I knew what I was doing. And I planted these plum tomatoes or grape tomatoes on my deck. I had to actually go up on a ladder to tie them up from falling down. I said, this is crazy. These plants are like 12 feet tall. What did I do? And it's not like I use Super Miracle Grow, but then I learned it's indeterminate and they'll just take off. The advantage is you get tomatoes all season long. They tend to, you know, ripen, and there's another cluster, and then they ripen. It's nice, but you need to control because they can take over a garden pretty easily. So it's indeterminate versus determinate. And it usually says it on the label. So if you go like a Bonnie over at Home Depot or someplace else, and if you go to like Agway I know can be a little bit expensive, but those people there know what they're doing. So if I was buying tomato plants, I would ask them, is this a determinate or indeterminate variety? Because I don't have a lot of room and I don't have a ladder that's going to get me up 12 feet. There are a lot of bush varieties of plants. So instead of planting like the peas and the string beans, which will tend to go up on a vine, they do make bush varieties that are actually good in pots on the deck as well. I just bought, last year, I bought corn that I could grow in a pot. And I said, come on, this isn't going to work. And yet I had, I guess it was about a 36-inch pot. I put 9 seeds in around, and sure enough, they grew, and I got 4 ears of corn. Now, I put them at the Miller's Farm and got 4 for $2, but I spent the whole summer growing these things, so I managed to get 4 ears of corn. They tasted the best I've ever had, of course, right? So they do make these varieties that are meant to be grown in containers, and they're bush, so they're compact. They don't take over a lot of space. So if you go to places like Burpee or Territorial Seeds or any of these online catalogs, you'll start to see a lot more of these bush varieties that are being developed specifically for people who have patio decks and don't have gardens but want to be able to still enjoy the idea of gardening in a pot. I don't know about marijuana yet. The seeds I'm going to give you today, we'll see if you get it or not. I think is it legal? I don't even know. Is it legal to grow marijuana in New Jersey yet?
I don't think so.